As the movie begins, we are introduced to a group of scientists conducting experiments and collecting soil samples on Mars. Suddenly, they receive a notification warning them of an approaching storm. The scientists quickly rush towards their spaceship to seek shelter. However, during their chaotic movement, one scientist, who happens to be a botanist, gets separated from the group and disappears into the storm. Despite their efforts, the remaining scientists are unable to establish contact with him. They reluctantly conclude that the missing scientist, named Mark, may not have survived. Meanwhile, on Mars, Mark is shown struggling with a painful abdomen injury. Determined to survive, he drags himself to a chamber designated for the scientists. Inside, he discovers a food supply. However, he worries about how he will be able to communicate his situation and if he will be stranded on Mars until the next scheduled mission in 4 years. Realizing that he possesses a stash of potatoes, Mark begins planning how to cultivate them and extend his food supply. He takes notes in his diary and starts farming on the planet's soil to grow more potatoes. However, he faces a significant obstacle. There is a lack of water on Mars. The scientists had only left a limited amount of water, which is insufficient for long-term survival. Nevertheless, Mark remains determined to find a solution. After learning about water production and plant cultivation techniques, Mark figures out a way to create water by potentially converting hydrogen and oxygen. In his first attempt, a miscalculation leads to a dangerous explosion due to oxygen consumption. However, he corrects the mistake. In subsequent trials, Mark successfully manages to produce water and records this achievement in a video, showing a small sprout emerging from the soil. Filled with renewed hope, Mark celebrates his discovery and his chance at survival. However, back on Earth, the world is informed of Mark's presumed demise and his funeral takes place. Amidst these events, a girl observing from a satellite becomes an additional character in the story. When she watches the monthly clips, she discovers that the man is still alive. However, the materials that were previously located elsewhere have been moved to a different place. Specifically, the solar panels have been relocated. The girl informs her superiors that the supplies, including the material, have not been shifted. They also realize that Mark is still alive. Nevertheless, they notify her that even if they attempt to save Mark by traveling to Mars, he will face starvation and potential death by the time they arrive. They consider this an acceptable risk. On the other hand, instead of becoming anxious, Mark seeks a way to secure the upcoming project that will arrive in 4 years. To reach the location where the project will be, it may take 50 days and 70 nights. Mark has already been stranded here for a considerable time, so it's more sensible to embark on the journey instead of waiting. However, the destination is 2,500 kilometers away, and the available means of transportation, which runs on solar panels, can only cover a distance of 35 kilometers per day. Still, it presents an option for Mark. While on the ground, they all decide to prepare and sell food and water until the main supply arrives in March, which will take approximately a year. Mark had previously consumed plenty of potatoes, as evidenced by his writings, but Mark knows that the remaining supply won't endure for long. Therefore, communication with the outside world must be established in some way. Eventually, Mark reaches a location where a camera is positioned, capable of transmitting images of Mars to the world. The camera is mounted on 3 posts, with the words "Can you see me" written in the middle, "No" on the left side, and "Can you see me" on the right side. Mark takes hold of it, and when people worldwide see this message, they move the camera towards the yes key. Mark is overjoyed to realize that people know he is alive, and is now eagerly awaiting communication with the world. It appears that Mark is informed that food will be sent to him, indicating that the scientists accompanying him have relayed his whereabouts. However, they deny having disclosed his location, leaving Mark feeling disappointed and saddened. The remaining potatoes he has are inadequate since he will already be hungry by the time the food and water reach him. With no other choice, he decides to drastically reduce his daily food intake in order to stay alive. Now, on the ground, we see NASA, who have launched rockets into space. Unfortunately, as soon as the rockets are launched, they explode and all the food and essential items are lost. This is a major setback as nothing is able to reach the intended target. As a result, there is a great sense of sadness and disappointment among those involved. Despite this, one individual takes the opportunity to send a message to NASA, expressing their determination to keep fighting and asking them to inform their parents about their dedication to their profession. They emphasize that they fought for their life with pride. In the midst of this situation, there is also a request for help from China, who is willing to assist. Upon reviewing the footage, it is discovered that the man is still alive, although the supplies have been moved to a different location. The solar panels, in particular, have been relocated. The observation is made that since the material hasn't been moved, it indicates that Mark is still alive. However, Mark's seniors explain that even if they were to go and rescue him on Mars, he would likely starve before reaching him. Mark himself, on the other hand, remains optimistic and focuses on finding a way to secure the upcoming project that will arrive in 4 years. To reach the new project location, it would take roughly 50 to 70 days. Mark's means of transportation, which relies on solar panels, can only cover about 35 kilometers per day, posing a challenge. Despite this limitation, Mark sees it as a viable option. Meanwhile, back on Earth, a decision is made to prepare and send food and water until the main shipment arrives in a year's time. It is noted that Mark had been surviving on potatoes, but it is acknowledged that his supply is not infinite. Establishing contact becomes crucial, and Mark eventually discovers a camera that can transmit images of Mars to the world. The camera is positioned on a board with 3 posts, featuring the phrases "Can you see me?" at the center, "No" on the left, and "Yes" on the right. Mark takes a photo of this, and when it is seen by people around the world, they move the camera to the "Yes" key. This fills Mark with overwhelming joy, as it signifies that people are aware of his survival and eagerly waiting to communicate with him. During the hearing where he is informed that food is being sent to him, Mark expresses his disappointment that he will soon depart. He becomes saddened, knowing that the remaining potatoes won't sustain him until more food or water arrives. He resolves to reduce his daily food intake to a minimal amount in order to survive. Meanwhile, NASA launches rockets containing food and essential items to sustain Mark. However, to their dismay, the rockets explode upon launch, resulting in the loss of all the supplies. Despite this setback, Mark sends a message to NASA, expressing his determination and refusal to lose hope. He vows to fight until his last breath and requests that they inform his parents that he remained dedicated to his profession and fought for his life until the end. Additionally, Mark seeks assistance from China, who agrees to help him. Their spaceship is scheduled to leave after 28 days. However, another member of the team proposes a different idea. They suggest redirecting the spaceship already returning from Mars back to Mark's location, utilizing the same route already traversed. There is a spaceship available from Mars to Earth, and if the returning astronauts take it, other scientists will be able to take their place. However, this plan is risky as it may expose the identity of the other scientists involved. Nevertheless, NASA decides to take this course of action. When NASA informs Mark about the redirected spaceship, he is surprised and relieved. He realizes that the same person who suggested the plan had requested these measures. He is grateful that his team members are willing to risk their lives to save him. Mark is encouraged by their support. With the help of China, NASA successfully coordinates the rescue mission. It is acknowledged that reaching Mark might take several years, but the team is determined to do whatever it takes. NASA faces criticism from those who question their decision to involve China, but Mark's unwavering courage and the scientists' dedication to saving their comrade outweigh any doubt. They continue their efforts to provide Mark with food and other supplies, working towards a successful rescue. Now, Mark comes to know that his companions are coming to collect him, but his spaceship is not fully equipped to reach Mars. He realizes that he will have to prepare his spaceship and consume more resources on Mars to complete the journey. Therefore, when he joins his companions, they start working on fixing and upgrading the ship. However, it is so heavy that by the time Mark becomes aware of the situation, he realizes that their progress is not as fast as he hoped. Despite the challenges, he manages to escape from the spacecraft, but he struggles with suffocation and the spaceship remains partially damaged. This causes difficulties in maneuvering and operating the ship, leading him to momentarily lose consciousness. Consequently, he loses contact with his companions, causing them to worry. Fortunately, after some time he regains consciousness, bringing relief and joy to everyone. On Earth, many people are delighted about the success of the mission, and they pray for the safety of Mark and the other scientists. However, a new problem arises as Mark realizes that he is unable to catch up with his friends due to the speed of his spaceship. In response, he reassures his friends not to worry as he will quickly find a way to control the speed and reunite with them. In a stroke of luck, the other scientists release a part of their spaceship, reducing its velocity and allowing Mark to catch up. As Mark approaches, he sees the female commander reaching the target with the help of a rope tied to a moving chair. However, the rope is too short for Mark to reach them, so he informs them that he is in his own spaceship. Mark then makes a hole in his spacesuit, which releases high-pressure air and changes his trajectory, ultimately bringing him closer to the commander. When he finally reaches her, he is overjoyed that his life has been saved and he has been rescued. Suddenly, some movement catches their attention. Mark using his newfound freedom, frees himself from the grip of the female commander, just as she throws a rope towards him to secure his route. Eventually, Mark is safely brought inside the spaceship, leaving everyone elated that their mission has been successful. Now we see that they have all finally landed on Earth, and here Mark is the head of the team of scientists. He begins to teach them how to protect themselves if they become trapped in space. They are encouraged to never lose courage. With this, the movie comes to an end. I hope you found our analysis of the movie to be insightful and engaging. Once again, thank you for your support and patience as we explored all the intricate details of this movie. Happy watching.